Okay, last and certainly least, we're going to just talk about some of the specifics for the class. I want to show you the difference between formal maps and figures and talk about some lab submission details. So, without further ado, alright, so for lab submissions, sometimes I ask for a formal map. This is because sometimes you do get stuck making formal maps. I want to make sure that you're getting some feedback on how you're laying out your pages and visual hierarchy. So I'm going to ask for these a couple times. I'm always happy when I ask you to submit a formal map to accept a true formal figure. So I just want to talk about what those are and then talk about the difference between that and a screenshot. So when I'm asking for formal maps, I want you to have a specific audience in mind and a specific purpose for your map. I want you to make sure that you're including all of the elements that need to be included to convey the point of your data. So sometimes a figure might have a legend, sometimes not, sometimes scale, sometimes not, but a figure is always going to have a caption, a professional, succinct, articulate caption talking about what you're actually presenting. So whether it's a formal map with a title and all these things, or a figure, and I'm going to show some examples in a second, think about really dialing the professionalism. With a screenshot, I'm trying to save you time. I'm trying to, I just need a way for you to show me your progress, show me your work. It lets me gauge, if you guys are figuring it out. And with screenshots, I don't care how you do them. If it's easier for you to keep everything in ARC, then fine, do that. If you want to use your snippet tool or any kind of screen grab tool, grab something, throw it on the clipboard, and then paste it into Word, that's fine. So the key is to save you time. So don't labor over how to do these correctly. Just get it done. Make sure you do include some kind of a caption. So the reason I ask for a caption isn't just to assign more work. I just need to be able to evaluate you and are you tracking what you're doing, and I can do that best if you just throw a caption in with your screenshot just telling me what you're showing me and that you understand what you're doing and what you're showing me. So that's the whole point of that. So the reason I ask you to crop it is because I don't want to see all the ArcMap stuff. It ends up making your figure so small that I can't see the details, so I want you to crop into what you're actually trying to show me and get rid of the table of contents and all that other stuff. The stuff in the table of contents I usually can't read anyway, so that's why I ask you to throw it in a caption. Okay, so that's that. Formal maps, like I said, title, legends, scale, the whole 9 yards. I'm pulling some examples from an intro assignment that I do just to show you how many different ways there are for people to throw together the exact same results. I'm going to kind of plow through them, but going from portrait to landscape, students do a pretty good job of getting the top to bottom, left to right, but look at the little details like how big this supplementary info is relative to the main data. The legend comes in automatically bolded from ArcGIS. You need to make sure that this isn't trumping your title. Little things like that. There's alignment issues and things like that, but just how much all these little details can make such a big difference. Nice top to bottom, left to right, appropriate sizing for really supportive things. So nice job on all these, I think, but some of them are definitely better than others. So formal maps. Figures, remember, are always a little bit more specific. They come within a body of text usually, or they're in a report, so they're just kind of an illustration more than a standalone item. So sometimes scale and orientation is important, sometimes it's not. When you've got something where you can intuitively understand the outline, usually scale and orientation aren't that important. I'd be really careful if we're asking people to read things of this size, then how big does the north arrow need to be? I would say that if you need to include north, which I really doubt you do because we should be able to identify Minnesota, and then this box is very clearly coming from this area, I'd say this is absolutely unnecessary. But if you do need to include this, it could be 1/4 the size and be very, very small. This is, I think, big and graphic relative to the other things on here. 70 kilometers, this is probably an appropriate size for the scale bar. Same here, we've got a little inset map we're getting the larger spatial extent, and then getting to see some detail. I think the scale and north arrow are much more appropriately handled here for the overall size. You think about the size of the things you're asking people to read. Here, the font size is very much in line with the labels. Again, the north arrow could be a quarter of the size relative to the font size of the scale, which I think here is actually pretty important. It's not really, I think scale here helps us understand the size of the features that this person is pointing out. I don't think that north necessarily informs anything about this. Upstream, downstream might, more than north. So it's just, I think, important to think through some of those, whether or not they need to be included. Yeah, so just examples of figures. I don't think this is that important. So like I said, screenshots are meant to save you time. You're documenting your process. Do whatever it takes to get that information to me. They do require a caption so I can evaluate whether or not you understand what you're doing and what you're showing me, so make them brief, effective, articulate. Figures are formal in the sense that you should be thinking about audience and including all the elements that make it appropriate and meaningful as a standalone thing. So that's the difference between figures and screenshots. A figure can be turned in lieu of a formal map. It's just kind of depending on what you want practice doing. If you want feedback on your formal maps or figures, that way, you choose. It's up to you. So I think that's pretty much it. Some last minute tips. I would definitely organize your data. Get used to organizing your data. Everyone in this class has been doing GIS and should have some experience with what a disaster data management can be if you aren't careful with this stuff. Keep your folders and your file names short and descriptive, and don't include spaces. ArcGIS has gotten a lot better about not freaking out when it encounters spaces, but there are a few tools and a few things I do where this still does pop up. So make sure you're using underscores or things like that and not leaving spaces in your file names. Use our catalog if you're going to move things around, delete things, zip things, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you're organizing things in our catalog, not Windows. If you wonder why, let me know. Save relative paths in your map documents. Save your work often. And when you submit figures or formal maps, make sure you're putting your names on things. For professionalism. Data credits. I've talked about this a little bit. Make sure that you are including your sources for data. I should always include where I'm getting the data in the lab instructions in the data section, and that's just about it. And just to leave you something to feel lighthearted about and laugh about. That's it. All right. Well done. If you have questions, let me know, and good luck working through the lab exercises. Thanks.